But they were stretching him for about 5 or 10 minutes. You see that he went in, he came back out, he ran a few sprints just to try to loosen it up. This is going to be a game-time decision, and this is an offense that desperately thrives on him in the red zone, trying to find matchups for him to be able to go up against undersized defensive backs or even linebackers. And between Rashad Green on one side and Nick O'Leary on the other, they are integral parts of what Jameis Winston wants to do in the passing game. So we'll keep a closer eye the closer we get to kick on his availability and how much he'll be involved.
And for more on that, let's go down to Heather Cox, the status of this key Florida State weapon. Heather.
Chris, I have been back in the tunnel with the Florida State Seminoles in front of their locker room. As you guys alluded to, he did tweak that hamstring. They stretched it. He tested it, came back into the locker room. He did get it wrapped, talked for a good 10 minutes with team doctors, then came out to test it, like Kirk said, ran about 5 20-yard sprints. I heard him tell the doctors, it feels different. I definitely tweaked it, but I think I'm okay. As he came back in through the tunnel, spent a lot of time right shoulder to shoulder with his quarterback, Jameis Winston, who obviously very concerned about the status of his star tight end. As you guys said, they've been going to him a ton, especially late in season. I will keep you posted with any new news as to O'Leary's status.
You know, there's a bunch of guys who've gotten healthier in the 3-week layoff since their last games. Ifo Ekpe-Olumu, the top defender in Oregon, of course, out with the ACL. And Kirk will keep a close eye on that hamstring of O'Leary early on.
And listening to Heather's report, that sounds like a story that he and the doctors and Jimbo Fisher really aren't going to know the health and the status of that hamstring until the first play, until he really gets into the game and pushes off and hits a linebacker and hits a defensive tackle. That's when we're going to find out. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out, give it 2 or 3 plays, and then we're going to know if he's going to be able to play today or if he's not.
And if he can't, it's a serious concern.
Kevin Hapley comes in and 2 receptions on the year, transfer from Penn State. Not nearly the same threat at tight end. Again, especially in the red zone where Jameis Winston thrives on getting the ball to Nick O'Leary.
Yeah, it's really a 2-pronged passing attack for Winston. Rashad Green, the all-time receiver, and of course the all-time tight end at Florida State, Nick O'Leary. Well, on this landmark day for college football, history really does give us hope, and the setting suggests that something special is possible here, maybe even likely. This manicured, immaculate proving ground, the star power aligned on each side. One journey already shaped by resilience and resolve is going to end. Another will continue on till the ultimate game. The wait is over. The playoff is here.
What places stir us? What sights stun us? What moments move us? It's why we watch and who we tell. And what we might hope to come true. A miracle at its core is a violation of the rules of experience and the laws of nature. If faith is belief in things unseen, sport is the marvel of what we can see. So we watch. Not for the fact of what happens, but for the magic of what might. We watch for the urgency of now and the prayer of what's next.
Turning on the burners, spins it, there he goes!
Are you kidding?
He's gone the distance!
We watch for the wishing more than the knowing and the belief beyond the proof.
And he will score! Just listen to the noise.
Flawless weather on this historic day. The Rose Bowl, bathed in sunshine, sitting at the foot of the San Gabriel Mountains, as we welcome you to the college football playoff at the Rose Bowl game, presented by Northwestern Mutual. We like the sound of that, the 101st Rose Bowl, but unlike any other. Semifinal number 1, of course, the Oregon Ducks, the 2nd seeded team. Florida State is the 2nd ranked team, just behind Alabama in the AP poll, which will face Ohio State at the All-State Sugar Bowl directly following this game about 8:30 Eastern Time. The winners to collide at AT&T Stadium on January 12th. Welcome back, Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. Well, these 4 playoff teams were 4 of the preseason top 5, Kirk. The Seminoles and the Ducks both expected to be here, but both have had very compelling journeys. The Seminoles haven't been dominant. They've been amazing, in Jimbo Fisher's words, falling behind with mistakes again and again, showing incredible survival instinct.
It's been amazing to watch this team just week after week be challenged. And I think a lot of the cynics and a lot of the outsiders thought, okay, maybe this is the week they go down. But with number 5 back there and with a defense in the second half that's made a lot of plays, they have built a will that they believe that they're going to win. Here they come into this game, big underdogs. They are not saying it necessarily publicly, but they're feeding off of that. I will be surprised, even though it's been a trend for them to start slow. I'll be very, very surprised on this setting if they start slow. I think Jameis and this defense will play much better than they have all year.
Noles underdogs for the first time since 2011. It's because Oregon has been on a roll. Since their 1 loss to Arizona, they began to regroup, but it began on this field against UCLA, Kirk. 26-point per game margin in that 8-game winning streak, despite injury after injury.
Well, a lot of injuries this season, but the one thing we knew about was Marcus Mariota, and he's lived up to the billing and the pressure. This will be his 40th start in this offense. He started with Chip Kelly, the last couple years of course with Mark Helfrich, and I think the offense, much like what you see from Florida State feeding off of Jameis Winston, they feed off of his leadership in a different way and his playmaking ability. It'll have to be very, very at a very high level today for them to move the ball consistently against a very talented Noles defense.
Talked about the 2 experienced quarterbacks, but there are 2 true freshman running backs, one on either side, who become the workhorses for their team. You think they're huge today? I
really do. As much as we're going to talk about the quarterbacks, I do think it starts with the true freshman running backs. Cam Irving, the starting left tackle, moves to the middle. You see the 2 high safety look? That's where the freshman's going to be, and I have to be able to run the football into that kind of look. The reason that's important, that gets the safeties down. Now they crowd the line of scrimmage, and now Rashad Green gets some one-on-one opportunities where he can make plays. Now, this is the thing we don't know about yet. We'll have to stay, again, close to this injury to Nick O'Leary. If he gets down in the red zone, Jameis Winston will always look his way and high point the football to the big tight end to be able to let him go up and use his size to be able to make plays. But with all the talk about Winston, if you really have watched Florida State, it starts with the line of scrimmage and Dalvin Cook and Carlos Williams running the ball to set up Jameis Winston.
Williams and Mario Pender, another back, also healthy. So was Thomas Tyner for Oregon to help out Royce Freeman, who's just had a spectacular freshman year.
One of the most impressive true freshman running backs I've ever seen in covering this sport for a long time, and he has really come on in the second half. I look at Mariota in this option game as the counterpunch to the inside run game. Chip Kelly, Mark Helfrich, Scott Frost will tell you that the inside run game sets up this offense. Once they get the inside run game going, that's where you'll see the perimeter part of this offense. They stretch you horizontally with the jet sweeps, the quick throws, and this is the biggest part of the game to me today. Can Florida State avoid this? You get caught up in the run game, you get caught up in that outside run game, and then boom, there's somebody busts an assignment, and it's a big touchdown pass. Mariota has to make Florida State pay for being out of position by throwing touchdown passes.
Dalvin Cook from Miami began the year as a non-factor, became Fisher's trump card, and now is the workhorse. Royce Freeman, who comes from extreme Southern California, about 20 miles north of the Mexican border, the first Duck true freshman 1,000-yard rusher. We haven't talked defense yet, Kirk. Which defense is going to step up and look better than they have all year against tough opposition? Because they both had their moments, but they've also been vulnerable.
Yeah, they have. And I think the 2 defenses come in with a different mentality. I think Oregon's going to come in defensively, and they're going to almost build an umbrella. Because of Ifo Ekpreolamo being out, they're not going to play a lot of man-to-man. They're not going to live on an island with their corners against Jameis Winston. They're going to keep everything in front of them. Challenge Florida State to see if they can move the ball without making mistakes, and then try to lock down the Noles offense in the red zone. Try to make the Noles kick field goals. That'll be Oregon's approach. And I think if you're looking at Florida State, it's dealing with the tempo. It's dealing with the personnel groupings, the formations, the motions, all the eye candy that happens before the snap. That's what really can stress you. And also, let's keep a close eye on the defensive lineman from Florida State. We've seen this offense wear down talented defensive linemen in the past. The Noles have got to be wary of that and try to substitute the big fellas as often as they can throughout the game.
Spending time with both teams. You've got two supremely confident bunches. No program in America has a better record this decade than Oregon. Still, though, many don't respect them. And on the Seminoles side, they feel like the whole world, besides their community, wants to see them lose, and they seem to be embracing that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I think we felt that this week. You know, they've tried to downplay that. I think that it's real. I think they feel it. I think their fans feel it. That's why I'd be very surprised if they started slow the way they have so many times this year.
Well, so many times Florida State's been able to pull out close games. The Ducks have not played in that many close games. Well, the Rose Bowl game is about to begin to usher in this new playoff era in college football. Semifinal number 1. And for the national anthem, we throw it down to the field. The Oregon Marching Band, under the direction of Dr. Eric Wilshire, Director of Athletic Bands. If you're not ready for the Rose Bowl in the playoff, you might not have a pulse. Kickoff from the Rose Bowl is coming up. And welcome back to the Nissan pregame rush, closing in on kickoff between Oregon and Florida State. Ducks in familiar territory. They've played here 20 times in the past. A familiar scene because they came here and beat the UCLA Bruins following their only losses here and began to rebuild their season on this very field. Lots of green and gold, folks making the 859-mile journey south. They always make a fashion statement. This is the debut of the all-apple green unis and the matte green helmets. Jake Fisher, one of the key components of that offensive line, as the higher seed. Oregon is the home team. As we mentioned, the travel south, the familiar territory. The Florida State Seminoles back where they, of course, won the final BCS title a year ago. They've not yet played in an official Rose Bowl game, however. 7 games decided by a touchdown or less. An instinct for survival. And a habit of being just a little bit late, as they are today, Kirk. A win streak that stretches back 29 games to late 2012. This has been the Nissan pregame rush. Seminoles won't mind the fact that this is an Oregon crowd. They've felt like folks are against them all year. The honorary captains for today's game, the great Dan Fouts of Oregon, Jamie Dukes representing Florida State, and it's Matt Austin of the SEC to toss the coin.
Gentlemen, congratulations on being selected to play in the first ever college football playoff semifinal game. Joining us today for the coin toss and presenting the coin is the president of the Tournament of Roses, Mr. Rich Chinnan. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Gentlemen, today's coin is a commemorative coin. Each side is represented by one of the teams. We have Oregon and Florida State. There'll be no need to call the toss. I'll flip it. Whatever head is showing, that'll have won the toss. And it is Florida State. Florida has won the toss. You have the first selection. You want to defer your choice?
Defer to the second half.
They'll defer their choice to the second half. You want the football? Which way you want to kick it? Okay, Florida State over there, Oregon over here.
So the Seminoles win the toss and defer. Mark Helfrich and his offense will get the football first. The 40-year-old Oregon native, who's 23-3 in 2 seasons, is with Tom Rinaldi.
Chris, thank you very much. Coach, what most tells you your team is ready?
We're just, our mindset's good. You know, we're a loose operation in general, and we're focused, confident, and ready to go.
Appreciate the time and best of luck to you.
All right,
let's go over to Heather with Jimbo Fisher.
Tom, thanks so much. Coach, we saw what nobody wants to see. Your tight end, Nick O'Leary, went down running a route, tweaked his hamstring. What's his status for the game?
He's fine. He felt it get tight, and he caught it beforehand. We went in and got it stretched out, so he's good to go.
Today, you return to the field a year after winning the national championship right here. How do you use that experience to your advantage?
Hopefully the atmosphere and environment, learn how to play big games and not worry about the outcome, just go play the game. And these guys have been in a lot of big games, so hopefully we'll carry it on to today.
Coach, enjoy it.
Thank you.
Chris?
Heather, Fisher's won 58 out of 68 career games and has not lost a postseason game, 4-0 in bowls. So one of the great kickers we've seen in college football, Roberto Aguayo, to kick it away and begin the playoff era, the highest level of college football, and this Rose Bowl game.